Welcome to reInvent 2025. My name is Umesh Sampath. I'm the Director for Training Products at AWS. I'm also enlightened to welcome my good friend, Julio Blanco Perez from Santander. He's going to share the stage with me today and talk about AI skills. So Julio, if you wouldn't mind kind of introducing yourself, he's the acting CDO at Santander. I'm really excited about the portion of the presentation that Julio is actually going to deliver today because it brings home a lot of what we want to talk about.
Thank you. If you can hear me too, everything's all right. Thank you, Mesh, for having me. I really thrilled to be here to share what we've been doing for the last 2 years in partnership with AWS.
Yeah, no, exciting times ahead. I was very thrilled about what Santander was able to do, how they've been able to leverage a lot of the mechanisms that we'll talk about and the products that we've built at AWS, particularly around upskilling their workforce, and they see some really practical, outstanding results. So looking forward to Julio kind of talking a little bit about that towards the second part of the presentation. So let me kind of start with let me kind of talk a little bit about what we'll cover today. Largely, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the challenges and the opportunities that exist from AI, and particularly around AI upskilling and why it's important, both for individuals as well as for organizations. Next, we'll actually cover how Skill Builder, how we've evolved Skill Builder, and how we continue to actually make Skill Builder available with AI-powered experiences that actually help you achieve the AI transformation and AI skilling that you're looking for at scale. And then to bring it home, I'll hand the mic over to Julio, who will walk us through Santander's story. So we'll spend about 20, 25 minutes just talking about the problem space and the approach that we're taking, and then we'll actually land with the practical aspect of Santander's story. So let me kind of start with a few stats, some data, just to kind of land the challenge in front of us. According to the World Economic Forum, the jobs report in 2025, 40% of core job skills are expected to change by 2030. Just reflect on that for a second. That's nearly half the world's population is going to see changes in skills. So it's an really interesting challenge for all of us and ahead of us, particularly around upskilling. The other statistic that I want to share is AWS ran a research study across several different organizations. Most of these organizations that we talked to, 92% of them said they plan to have AI projects either in the works or in production by 2028. However, 3 out of 4, or 75% of them, said that they can't find the talent that they need. So there's this really interesting gap of ambition and capability. And this is actually really interesting. I see some heads nodding in the crowd. This is a really interesting time for all of us around AI upskilling. The other aspect of this challenge that makes it a bit more interesting and complicated in some ways is this idea of half-life or skills half-life. According to Forbes, this was an article published in Forbes in 2024. I still think it's relevant, so we've included it on the slide. The half-life for jobs in the 1980s was about 10 years. In 2024, that was about 4. And the Forbes article through the Stanford study shows that half-life for skills could actually be just 2 years in the next 2 to 4 years. So what's happening is AI skills are evolving pretty quickly, and constant, continuous learning is essentially going to be required, no longer a nice to have. So this is the other aspect of what we're actually seeing in terms of how the skills are actually evolving. Now, we've talked about challenges so far. Let's actually talk a bit about the opportunities. A study that was done by Skillsoft's IT Skills and Salary Report indicates that individuals that possess AI skills tend to make 47% higher in compensation. So if you can actually be decisive about taking control of your career and your AI skilling, and essentially bring AI skilling as a part of your professional development, you have the opportunity to tap into that premium. It's not a small percent lift in terms of compensation. So there's a really interesting mix of challenge and opportunity that we see from a AI skilling standpoint. So let's talk a little bit about how the modern learner's journey is evolving as well. Obviously, technical skills and core skills have been part of learning for a long time. That's not changing. The foundational aspects continue to still be incredibly relevant. However, complementary to those foundational aspects are human-centric skills. And generative AI and AI technologies are actually making it a lot easier for products like ours, frankly, that can bring human-centric skills to complement the technology-focused skills. So human-centric skills, particularly like communication, critical thinking, relationship building, these are all integrated into learning experiences today. And we'll talk a little bit about how Skill Builder has evolved to support these capabilities. The other aspect that is changing quite rapidly is this idea that people don't have time professionally, personally. And so taking out 2-3 days from your work, some people can still do it, but oftentimes micro-learning is becoming much more of the norm. It's like 15 minutes, I have 15 minutes to learn something, I have a couple hours to learn something. And so this idea of transactional learning, making it fun and engaging, is the other aspect of what we're actually seeing the individual's learning journey and how it's evolving. So let me reframe the learning cycle, if you will. We obviously think of the learning cycle through the learn lens, where you're learning concepts, you practice it to reinforce your learning, you prepare for credentials or exams, and then you basically get, let's say, an AWS certification. And that's traditionally been sort of the waterfall approach. However, what we're actually observing is that the learn and practice phase are getting smaller and much more continuous. So you learn bursts of concepts, you practice them in the same experience. And that actually helps you go back and forth. You can actually do this micro-learning thing back and forth multiple times. You learn a concept, you practice it, you learn the next concept, you practice it. If you need to reinforce the first concept you learn, you can do that. This also helps you in the context of what you're working on. So while you're actually solving a problem, you say, yeah, I need 30 minutes. I'm actually going to go learn a concept, practice it, and then come back to my real work that I'm doing. And so this idea of micro-learning is becoming much more of the norm, and it supports this idea of continuous learning that we saw previously in terms of one of the challenges. Once you've amassed a body of knowledge and you've accumulated these concepts across a single domain, you can actually go into the prepare phase, and then once you actually have prepared for your exams, you can get credentials. So these AI-powered personalization is really actually helping a lot of our learners. So let me dive a little bit deeper on the learn phase. AWS Skill Builder provides 330 or so resources, and ever growing, to actually help you grow your AI skills. And those are a combination of technical skills, where you learn core concepts, or you can actually go deeper if you're interested in learning deeper concepts with AI, as well as human-centric skills. And so we've actually built products that bring those experiences together, where you can learn, you can practice, and you can actually practice both technical skills and human-centric skills. I'll talk a lot about these products that you see on the slide here, where it talks about AI-powered immersive learning experiences like Simulearn or Meeting Simulator. So I'll cover those in a bit more detail as we walk through the presentation today. Let's talk about the practice phase. If you're interested in building a role or industry expertise, we have a series of products that actually help you do that. For example, top left, you see CloudQuest. CloudQuest is a 3D game product where you can actually learn cloud concepts in essentially a game-based learning experience. You can try out a variety of AWS services in the same game, and you can actually learn concepts, practice it, solve the quest, go to the next one, and so on. So these experiences around micro-learning are built in to essentially the Skill Builder product set. Similarly, if you're just interested in looking at labs, you can actually go and practice a lot of the concepts within Builder Labs or Jam sessions. These are, again, products that help you practice what you've actually learned in a real AWS environment. You can develop communications and human-centric skills through products like Meeting Simulator and Simulearn. And then the other aspect of what we've actually learned with practice is group-based learning, where you can actually use Card Clash, which is essentially a game-based product that helps you go head-to-head with individuals, and you can actually learn in a group-based format. So again, these learn and practice experiences are built right into the product set with AWS Skill Builder. Let's take a look at some of the products that I mentioned slightly in more depth as we walk through the presentation. So CloudQuest, Generative AI Practitioner. It's primarily designed for someone interested in foundational skills, but essentially you're in a 3D virtual city and you're actually learning from guided experiences that are built into the game. You go through recommendations, and you actually try out your recommendations in real-world AWS environments, right there in that experience. So it's bringing learning and practicing all within the entire, in essentially the same experience. And so you learn, you get hands-on experience with Amazon Bedrock, with SageMaker, with Q Developer, and the list goes on. You can also learn about essentially foundational models, prompt engineering. You can learn about RAG implementation concepts, and so on. And this is an ever-growing list of capabilities that we're adding continuously. I mentioned with Skill Builder, we have 330 such resources. We continuously add to them as new technology comes out. If you're not quite friendly to a 3D-based game type learning format, we have Simulearn. Essentially, Simulearn is mimicking a real-world scenario for you. So it's a simulated learning experience where you engage with AI-powered virtual agents. And essentially, you're gathering requirements, you're developing architectural recommendations, you're providing essentially proposals to AI agents. And these agents are actually providing you feedback on two things. One is the technical skills that you're learning. The other is the human-centric skills, particularly around communication. So you get the entire feedback right within the context of the simulated learning environment. So it's a nifty experience. And what we've noticed is, like, when we look at engagement data, particularly with CloudQuest and with Simulearn, our engagement numbers with learners is incredibly high when compared to traditional digital learning formats, because you're actually bringing these two experiences together in a micro-learning format. And by the way, it's perfect for either you're starting off or you're actually developing advanced architectural concepts. We have a ton of different courses in Simulearn that actually specifically cover generative AI architecture plans. Next, I want to talk about Meeting Simulator. This is a super interesting launch. We launched this product not too long ago, November 12th, just last month. And this is actually primarily focused on developing human-centric skills. So it simulates real-world, high-stakes conversations through voice or text. So again, it's fascinating. This is where we've actually leveraged AI and generative AI technologies to improve and make our learning products better but also we're actually leveraging them to teach AI and AI concepts. So in this case, you can actually simulate practical scenarios. So for example, you can simulate scenarios where you're discussing cost conversations with the CFO, and the agent persona goes back and forth and gives you real-time feedback on how you're communicating. So if you're essentially preparing for a technical sales role, or you're preparing for stakeholder type roles, this product would actually be perfect for you. Next, once you've amassed sufficient body of knowledge, where you've gone back and forth with microlearning, you can prepare for certification exams. And we've made preparation for the certification exams quite easy. You get to know your exam, you refresh your skills, you can review and practice through exam-style questions, and then essentially self-assess. Are you ready to take an AWS certification or not? These certifications tend to be several hours long with multiple choice questions back and forth. So going through a preparation phase actually helps individuals. Now, before I dive into what are the specific AI ML certifications that we have published or launched, I want to talk a little bit about why certifications are important. Remember the 47% compensation bump that I talked about? Knowing the skills is one thing, but having the credentials on your resume helps you overcome, because it actually validates for prospective employers that you actually know the AI skills. The other aspect is, and these are some stats that I'll kind of share more broadly, it's about 1 million unique individuals today that possess, over 1 million, that possess AWS certifications, and some of them possess multiple certifications. So it's actually quite popular amongst individuals, but also frankly amongst prospective employers. We actually ran a study and we asked organizations, do these certifications mean a lot? And I know Julio will talk a little bit about this with Santander as well. But interestingly enough, 91% of the organizations we spoke to said that having AWS certified staff increased innovation in their companies. Also, 90% plus said that they were able to reduce costs. So we see both innovative and productivity gains for organizations when you actually are hiring individuals with AWS certifications. Now, let me talk a little bit about the 4 certifications that we have. We have a total of about 12 certifications. AI Practitioner Foundational, it's sort of validating that you know foundational concepts in AI. Machine Learning Engineer Associate is actually really validating that you know essentially machine learning and deep learning concepts, model tuning, those types of things. Data Engineer Associate is a really interesting one. Oftentimes to get agentic applications built, data and data pipelines are incredibly important. And so Data Engineer Associate helps validate essentially the data pipelines are in place and you're set up to build those agentic applications. And then we're proud to announce on November 18th, the beta version of Generative AI Professional. So this is a developer certification that helps validate that you can actually build agentic applications. So we're excited with these certifications. And just so you know, machine learning engineer and data engineer have been around for some time, but they've been updated with more recent questions and essentially skills that validate agentic capabilities. We've also heard from a lot of our learners that taking these certifications can be onerous. And so we are excited to again announce that we launched micro-credentials. These micro-credentials are actually incredibly valuable because they actually provide real-time assessment in real AWS environments. Unlike certifications that have Q&A, where they're testing your knowledge, these micro-credentials actually validate hands-on skills. So your assessments are actually within AWS environments, and you can prove that not only you know the concept in theory, but you actually know how to operate those services at scale. Currently, we have two that we launched on November 12th, AWS Agentic AI Demonstrated and AWS Serverless Demonstrated. These complement our certifications really well, and they actually go hand in hand with the concept of microlearning. So now imagine you learn, you practice, you validate, and you do it in smaller chunks, and you rinse and repeat, and you're essentially amassing a body of knowledge continuously. So that's kind of a bit of a recap of the individual journey, where we talked about learn and practice getting closer to one another. Preparation for exams becomes part of the journey after you've actually gone back and forth with learn and practice. With micro-credentials, you can do a certain percentage of validations in that learn and practice phase. And then validate actually is either through micro-credentials or certifications. So that's your path as an individual to AI career, and hopefully the success that comes behind it. Now that we've talked about individuals, let's actually talk about what happens within organizations. One of the most powerful ways we believe to build culture is through collaborative team-based learning. And Julio will talk about this. Like, I'm really excited about his talk where he brings this together. But essentially, we've built a series of products that actually help collaborative team-based learning. Remember I mentioned Cloud Quest, which was essentially the 3D game for individuals? This Cloud Quest tournaments for organizations. So it's really open-ended. You learn, you solve problems together in real-world AWS environments as teams competing against one another in a healthy way, and you actually get the engagement at the team level. AWS Jams have been around for some time. These are open-ended, lab-based problems where teams get together and actually solve real-world challenges. There's leaderboards. You can actually see who's doing what. You can set up your own challenges that you'd like. So again, super interesting way to actually get engagement across your teams. AWS Card Clash. It's a game-based app that we've built. You can actually test your knowledge head-to-head with other individuals. It helps to learn, but it also helps to reinforce what you've learned. Escape rooms is really, really popular one too. Escape rooms are actually group-based certification exam preparations. So if you've been in a physical escape room, it's a similar concept. It's virtual. And you can essentially you can actually solve problems together, learn for actually certifications, and once you actually get from one room to another, you're actually doing in a group-based learning format. So it's fun to kind of get prepared for an exam in a group-based format. And then lastly, Skill Builder Trivia. It's another way to actually reinforce knowledge through large-scale team competition. Now, a lot of these formats are actually available at re:Invent. So I'll talk a little bit about exactly where you'll find them. So if you really want to experience them firsthand, they're present across several venues here at re:Invent 25. Let me talk about one more launch that we had on November 12th called Cohort Studio before I hand the mic over to Julio. But Cohort Studio, essentially, one of the feedback that we had received from a lot of our customers, and particularly in partnership with Santander even, essentially bringing a lot of these experiences together in multiple of these experiences like Simulearn or Card Clash or Jams, etc., together in a single experience was a problem for a lot of our customers, particularly when they were actually looking to launch team-based learning within their organization. So with Cohort Studio, anyone can launch a cohort program in less than 15 minutes. It's AI-powered. You can pick and choose the experiences that I talked about, and you can drive engagement and teamwork and recognition. Whether you're trying to organize a certification exam or you're actually trying to get AI skills boot camps ready, or you're actually looking at team competitions, you can actually do that in Cohort Studio. So we're very excited about this launch, and I have to thank Santander to helping us actually figure out and visualize what this product would look like. With that, let me hand the mic over to Julio. I'm really excited. He's the acting CTO again of Santander Bank, and he's going to walk you through how Santander took over some of the mechanisms and products that we've talked about and made it real and actually ran a program at scale in a financial services company. Thank you, Julio.
Thank you, Mesh. Hello, everybody, again. I will first try to introduce Santander because I don't know if everybody knows Santander, but it's a bank of 180 years of history, and that is really relevant when we are talking about cloud and AI for scaling, training, because we are a traditional bank and we are a global bank, and we are dealing with products that deal with from individuals to huge corporations. So we have a portfolio product that covers nearly everything that you think about in banking. Probably we have a product that covers that. We have nearly 200 million customers and nearly 2 billion euros in managed assets. And also we are partnered with AWS since 2018 to scale the way that we deal with our customers. We like to introduce ourselves as a digital bank with branches, so technology is embedded and should be embedded in everything that we do. But we also think that branches gives a lot of power and a lot of reach, depending on the people that we are dealing with. So really engaging this hybrid approach between a full digital bank and a traditional bank that has relationship through branches. And even if we are a digital global company, we are focusing here of a program that we launched 2 years ago in Brazil. So everything from here to the end of the presentation is Brazil-based, and we are trying to think about how to scale it throughout the company. So what's AWS Level Up? I'm taking some words from Umesh's presentation that traditional learning is not working anymore, at least from our point of view. In a big enterprise, launching lots of mandatory training does not scale. People don't want to be 3 days in a classroom with people of different levels. So in the end, you don't get the things that you want, that it's everybody on board, that everybody wants to be learning. But we also don't really see that we are there in terms of you as an employee manage your own training program by yourself, getting into a skill builder, trying to build everything that you need to be able to be certified. So when we thought about how we will be scaling our program, we mixed everything together. So Level Up, it's just like a progression game, but we have rules, we have paths, we have a cadency, we have 3 to 9 months expectation depending on the complexity of the courses. And we designed it with AWS because, they know a lot about their own platform, and we mix our needs and our paths for certification with their knowledge. So more or less how it works. When you get onboarded, you are assigned with a study group that more or less fits your knowledge and what certification you're gonna get. And then you're also onboarded on Skill Builder, so you have a clear path of where your next training but you are also able to do it by yourself. You can get courses from outside of your learning path. But what I'm saying, you have a cadence, people around you asking questions about the next training, asking if you got you are up to the training path. So everybody is pushing the other members of the team forward. We started seeing that. This is not something that we planned for, but we started seeing along the way that people started pushing each other because of the badges, because of, it's not a real gamification. We don't have a leadership, but you can see how other people in your study group are going. So in the end, you have a little gamification. We didn't want a full gamification with a leadership, a champion in the end, because we wanted everybody to go on board and everybody to be pushing for the training to go over. And we also, and I will be explaining you some slides in a few slides, we thought about how we were doing to have something different for the people that went to the end and got certified. We created what we call an AWS experience, with kind of reinvent, and our certified people can have a VIP lunch, lots of things over there, a different T-shirt. They can show all over the organization that they are certified. So they're kind of our VIP guys for the party. So what I'm saying, we created a framework. So we created that kind of progression system throughout the practice. So even we have lots of different parts for AI certifications, for cloud practitioners, for solution architects. They have different paths, but in the end, everything goes through the same way, through the same road. So different study groups. We have a hard schedule. So if you are going to be certified in, not certified, but going to the end of the training in 3 months, we schedule several trainings along the way, but we expect you to go forward on your own, self-paced, but you will be, everybody will see that you are not doing your training with your own group, which was something really, really interesting. And what we're saying, more effective communication was starting to come up through all the teams, that this is something that created a kind of spirit of community that didn't have before. We had other ways of training people. We had lots of AWS training. We had invested a lot in training, not only with AWS, but we wouldn't get the same results until we got up this mixed system that I think that we reached the sweet spot between mandatory things and feeling free to go after knowledge. So let me switch a little bit over here. If you are a tech worker in Santander, Brazil, someone from our development teams, what would you see when you start your journey, you're onboarded? You register in our portal, in our learning portal, that it's available for many other things, and you are enrolled inside AWS Skill Builder. So that's the more traditional thing. You will go there, you are onboarded, but then other things along the path are assigned to you. You are assigned, for example, for a Cloud West tournament. People go together, play together to resolve all that different scenarios. We also have training sessions from Skill Builder that are more or less synced for that particular team. We also have traditional what we call aulões in Portuguese, a big classroom, which is the sync part of the training. Everybody goes there for some day, for some specific topic. So we are not abandoning traditional learning, because there are some people from the team that don't really get that micro-learning strategy. They are not there. So as we want everybody to go forward, we mixed everything up. Then we got everybody to practice their sums. You use Simulearn. They use other platforms to simulate the sums. And then when we are ready, they pass. We have some evaluations for all the results. They are given the AWS voucher to go for the certification. And then when everything is finished, as we are saying, it's a fixed timeline. At the end of the 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months project, we have a closing session when we have some pricing giveaways, some devices, or whatever, that only the people that got certified can get the prizes. So it's the last mile gamification. It's not really big money, but you know that everybody wants to go in the stage and get the device. That was from the point of view of a person, but from the point of view of the organization. You can really see that we got thousands of people onboarded in our training, and hundreds of them being able to complete, even to certify. We had nearly 120 certifications when we began this project. So from 100 to 700, it's huge. It's a huge, and we also saw that kind of change in how training was being misunderstood, because training was that mandatory training, everything the HR wanted people to do, and your manager will go after you if you didn't complete your training during that period. And we started seeing more people going together and discussing about how to get the best from the tooling that we are doing, we are giving to them. Start seeing that that complete tooling being used in other use cases, that special teams wanted more advanced classes, ILT classrooms, because something in their path was not covered, and they really wanted that for their day-to-day job. So it really changed the way that we manage training throughout the last two years. And as I was saying, it was 3 years ago, some of our executives were coming back from re:Invent to Brazil, and they just start saying, why don't we try to organize an experience like re:Invent there in Brazil? So we partnered with AWS and another partners of us, and we started re:Invent, which AWS Santander AWS Experience, which what I'm saying, it exploded the way that we thought about training, because we have 21 in the last time in October. We got 21 talks, level 200, level 300. As we have lots of people trained, we didn't have to have L100 sessions. We tried to push, to raise the bar, and have more quality paths. We have different paths. We had AI path, we have databases path, architecture. So I cannot say it's the same as reInvent because there are lots of things together, but we have 3 to 4 different talks at the same time. This year we also got the Jeep Racer in the middle of our open space. So the teams that run for the final got a lot of public throughout the office because everybody was in the same building. So we also got escape rooms and exam preparations through the 3 days. So escape room is usually digital. We got everybody in the same room and tried to get together to manage to exit the. We made some jokes about that we're going to close the door and they are only going out if they can. You can really finish the challenge. So what I'm saying is, and in the end, we also got a big party. But I said, the people that were certified are the ones that go in the VIP session. It was in the middle of the party, so they have different things, different booths, whatever. Whatever we thought about having people gamify the thing without having to create a leaderboard, because if you are usually in a gamification program, only the ones that are in the front are really engaged. But get in the middle and get in the end, you lose them. We wanted everybody on board. So that's what, even in the last day, if you got certified, you go there with your certification, even if it's not in the system, people got the T-shirt and got into the party. And that gives us something like this. As more people got trained, cloud and AI, we can do things in an easy way that they wouldn't before. So we got a problem inside with our investor advisory organization. They got stuck trying to have the correct pitch for our customers. They spend more time preparing the conversation than having that conversation with our customers. So we helped also with help of AWS, and we got some stack. We use AWS Stack to get everything together. But we changed completely the way our advisors work. Now they spend nearly 30 seconds to 1 minute to prepare that pitch, because we got everything prepared for them in our knowledge base, all the products of the Vanguard catalog there with the relative returns, risks, whatever, and they can adapt the pitch for more depth conversation for that kind of client. For other clients, it's a not so deep conversation, and we need a more formal approach, so they can tune many things on the project. And the results, you can see it already there. And I'm not passing through all the results, but we increased nearly 1.2 times increase in customer contact. And not only that it's just a project, but it was our first initiative that went through a compressed space of time. We experimented it, we launched it, and changed completely the way one of our main areas of growth in Brazil is using their time. So trying to wrap up everything. We truly believe that there's a transition to a new way of training inside companies, especially big ones that are more mandate-based tradition of dealing with learning. We believe that lifelong learning is here to be here forever. But we also recognize that our team was not ready for a self-paced. I don't know if sometime they will be ready for a full self-paced experience. So that was our way of mixing some things from the past, like we are 180 years history bank with top-notch technology like Skill Builder to be able to have everything together. And what would I say? So I will Thank you, Mesh, for having that time to share our story, and I give the word to you.
Thank you so much, Julio. What an amazing story! Like, just look at how a project, and then look at some of the outcomes, both in terms of their learning and how they accomplish the skills, but also how they applied those skills in a production context within their business applications. A super exciting story. I want to thank Julio for joining me on stage today. So we're towards the end of our presentation, somewhere another 2 more minutes, and then we're happy to basically take questions. In terms of next steps, here for individuals, you have access to over 1,000 learning resources. For individuals, you can go to skillbuilder.aws. There's also 330 plus trainings on AI. You can launch them today. For organizational leaders, upskill your workforce at scale. A lot of these capabilities that we talk about exist today in Skill Builder. Some AI learning spotlight options here. So if you want to take a few minutes to just grab a screen print, essentially there's generative AI learning plans for decision makers. There's generative AI learning plans for developers that includes the practical aspects. Quick Suite learning plan, agentic AI learning plans. There's several different learning options across the 330. We've just picked a few to highlight up here. And I want to kind of end our presentation today with get building at re:Invent. You can actually take your AWS Cloud AI expertise to the next level. Just in your mobile app, re:Invent mobile app, you can plug in training and certification, and it'll show you a variety of these. And many of these actually don't require registrations. You can just walk in. So you can take boot camps, spotlight labs. There's essentially the gamified challenges that we've talked about, AWS Jam sessions, Simulon, Escape Room, etc. There's breakout sessions throughout the conference. And the trivia app that we talked about, if you take shuttle buses between venues, you can actually see it in the shuttle buses. So we've tried to bring in a lot of the learning experiences right within the conference this year. So really excited in terms of what we have to offer. Hopefully the session was useful to kind of talk about the shift. We talked about the challenges, the opportunity in front of us. We also talked about the shift in learning continues being much more of no longer a nice to have, but much more of a requirement given how quickly the technology is evolving. And then the product set that we're building and customers like Santander are able to use and personalize it to their needs. So hopefully the session was helpful. Please leave us some feedback. We're happy to take questions. Logistically, what we were told was we're actually going to walk over in that area back there. We have about 10 minutes. Julio and myself will be there for at least 10 or 15 minutes. Happy to take questions. I don't know how the format would work with the headphones on, so we're going to venture over in that area and happy to talk to folks. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the conference.